Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Brad's Vlog. And in this vlog episode, I want to talk about my third psilocybin trip. So just yesterday, I finished doing a psilocybin trip, mushrooms, my third time in doing it, and it's been about a 3-year gap since my last trip. This one was by far the most intense out of all the other trips I've done. So I did my very first one back in 2015, and that one was only about like a 2-gram trip. And then in 2017, I did a small one with my ex-partner, and that was just that one wasn't very much at all either. But this one that I just did yesterday, it's now been officially 24 hours after I did my psilocybin trip, and this one was close to about 3.5 to 4 grams worth of mushrooms. And so this trip really threw me for a loop. It was a very positive trip, but I was really experiencing a lot more sensations. I was definitely going a lot more deeper than I did in previous trips altogether. So it started off, about the first 30 minutes or so was basically just me sitting on the couch and just smiling and getting into happiness, getting into positive reinforcement. And some people, when they do trips, they get very nervous. And that really wasn't my case. Before I was about 24 hours before I was doing it. It's a little bit of nervousness because I knew it was going to be a larger dose, but I just kind of started to ease into meditation and ease into more positive reinforcement relating to this. And my entire intention for this upcoming trip was to basically broaden psychic ability a lot more, go more into the third eye, looking more into inner insight, and really just attempt to stretch the psychic barriers a lot more. Well, it turned out a lot more was in store for me when I got into the trip itself. So when I went in, again, you start seeing the streaming colors of the mushrooms once you start getting deeper into the trance, the trip itself. And you get that kind of kaleidoscope vision. And for the first little while, you're kind of happy and you're just kind of playing around with the colors and you're seeing geometries within your mind. But then it started to get a little bit more serious, right? So I was basically feeling the compulsion to get off the couch and to just start looking at my entire environment, looking at my entire space. And what the mushrooms were trying to convey to me was to basically open up the environment a lot more. Open up the windows, because I've always kept the windows closed, open up the door, get some fresh air in here. And that was really their intention of really helping me to look into it, because this is what's going to expand myself a lot further. I was a little bit further away from like a park. I really wasn't too close to nature. So it was basically kind of more of an indoor trip. The first trip I had, it was more based on parks, because I had parks a lot more closer to me. So basically I was being told to just open up the doors, open up the windows, get some fresh air in here, put a lot of sunlight into the space, because that was what was lacking. And then there were times where I just felt like I needed to lay down, and at times I didn't even know what the mushrooms really wanted me to do. And it was just where I realized I had to surrender. And so what I did is I basically just made my body go limp. And I could see kind of like the mushrooms behind the scenes. It was kind of like they were cloaked, right? They would basically be hidden in kind of like a transparency, but you can see them. You could see these kind of mushroom entities in the background. And there were times too where if I wasn't getting a clue, my middle finger here would feel like there was a cactus prick that was coming right out of it. If I even so much as touched this middle finger here, it would be like getting pricked by a cactus, right? It was really intense. It's like, ow, ow, ow. And I kept touching it. It's like, why is this, ow, ow, why is this hitting me? And as soon as I was feeling that kind of physical pain, everything basically turned into a point, right? So when I looked at the geometry, everything was getting pointy. Everything was getting turned into like quills and prickly needles and such. And so that was the mushroom's response in saying, hey, pay attention here. We have a plan for you. Right? So there was times where I had to kind of lay down on the floor. They also wanted me to take the clothes off, right? Not to have such constricted clothing on, because I was like in blue jeans and socks and all that. And they really do not like socks. they said, socks are basically preventing your feet from breathing. And so they were giving me that lesson, saying when you get home, take your socks off, right? You're constricting your feet's ability to breathe by putting socks on your feet, by putting shoes on your feet. So the minute that you don't need them, take them off, right? Or if you want to wear sandals, that's fine as well too. But again, it's that texture on the feet with your socks. It so slowly suffocates them, right? It's like being in a desert and you're wearing a mask. And of course, you're just wanting to take that mask off because you have a hard time breathing. It's the same thing with your feet. Your feet have to breathe, right? They were also teaching me that humans truly are photosynthetic, okay? It's not the idea that we only rely upon our nourishment with the sun, but we are photosynthetic creatures. And it's very, very important that we go into sunlight, right? So this is why they wanted me to open everything up. But there were times, again, where they'd just they'd kind of be kicking me in the butt, right? They'd be kind of poking at me and prickling at me. And I have like a yoga mat just down here on the floor, and I was laying on the yoga mat for a little bit. And then there's like a time I say, okay, that's enough of that, roll over, right? As soon as I was rolling over, I was getting this kind of queasy, nauseated feeling in my stomach. And I thought I was probably going to throw up. And they were trying to say, come on, you got to stand up, you got to stand up. And just my own natural instinct was to go over to the bathroom and put my head in the toilet. Because I literally thought I was going to throw up. And they're making fun of you, of course. They're like, do you like that smell? Do you like the smell of your toilet? Yeah, your ass has been there, right? And that is the nature of the mushrooms, okay? They can be very crude at times. They can be very profane, right? They have a lot of profanity, right? They're dropping F-bombs a lot because they have no boundaries, right? They do not have any filters. When you are working with mushrooms, it is pure 100% honesty. It is pure 100% truth, but they're goofy at times as well too. It all depends upon the person. Like with me, I have kind of a goofy personality, so they get goofy with me. If a person was more stern and more serious, then they'd be very, very stern and very serious with that person as well too. But there's always an element of humor that they have. And so when I picked myself up from the bathroom floor, I was just looking into the mirror. And as soon as I looked into the mirror, everything went into a niceness, right? Everything just started to be more circular. Everything started to be a lot more rounded. And I could just look in at my face. I could look at my body. And I was seeing all these colors. And I was just doing Qigong in front of the mirror. And that was helping a lot. That was helping to clear away a feeling of the nausea. After I did that for a couple of minutes, then I basically had to relieve myself in the bathroom. And as soon as I relieved myself, I felt better. The pressure was coming off a lot. But then after that, they were showing me a lot of the geometries pertaining to reality and basically looking at cycles. And there were times too when I was sitting on the couch where they basically say, okay, now you're in the astral realm. Now you're in the astral plane. So your body is here in the physical, but your awareness is now in the astral plane. And what my thoughts were dictating the colors and geometries that I was seeing through the trip. And then I would hit highs and lows, right? Because they would show me certain thoughts that were somewhat negative. They would show me thoughts that were polarizing. They were showing me thoughts that were very dense. And I would go into them, and I'm like, okay, let's pick this up, let's pick this up. And I'd start doing dancing, I'd start doing singing as well too. And I would just do a lot of this, right? Raising the frequencies. And just doing this, and this is actually a Qigong maneuver as well too. Similar to it, is that you're basically doing like the flapping of the wings, like of the goose wings, and you're lifting the frequency, you're lifting the vibration, and they love that when you start doing, the movements, the postures, whether it's yoga postures or qigong or tai chi, right? You're doing those subtle movements. You're picking yourself up. It's like you're swimming upwards into the higher surface. You're not drowning in the depths of the ocean. And there's times too they say, okay, we're going to now get you into the ocean, right? You're going to plummet, and you're going to see a lot of these deep, unpleasant thoughts, and we just want you to be aware of this. And so now you see it, and you feel it. It's very dense, it's very tight, it constrains you a lot, and you say, no, okay, I'm getting out of here. I'm moving out of this vibration, and you just start picking yourself up, and it's like you're swimming You're swimming back into the surface. And that was all the astral plane. Okay, that's all you're doing in the astral plane. So they basically said, you're now in the astral plane. Okay, so now that I was able to move and elevate myself higher up into the astral plane, they would take me into the causal. So they'd take me into the causal plane and said, everything here is about feelings, right? So I'd start have very loving feelings, and there's times there'd be feelings where they'd be going down like this. And they said, you want to catch yourself with that, right? You want to look at that and uplift it, uplift yourself, uplift those feelings. So I was messing with that for a little while as well too, clearing away just any particular forms of negative thoughts, because my intellectual mind was going stir crazy. Oh, is this happening? What's happening here? What's doing this? Blah, blah, blah. And that's what was getting me into the dive, was taking me into the depths of the ocean. And it said, you're sinking by letting your intellectual mind narrate your entire response, because that's what was happening. The intellectual mind was trying to narrate everything. It was trying to dictate everything. It was trying to explain everything. It was trying to understand how everything worked. And they were basically saying, intellectual mind, shut up. Right? Just feel. You're in the causal plane now. You're working with feelings. You're not working with voice. You're not working with words. You're not working even with thoughts. Everything's feelings. So I started to elevate myself more into higher feelings. And then they took me downstairs into my house and did a lot of work there as well too. And as soon as I was just going into the downstairs, it almost just felt like things were getting very, very tight, because the windows weren't open, right? I had all these blinds down. And so they're cranking open the blinds, cranking open the windows, getting light in here, opening up doors, making sure that everything was properly ventilated, because the entire space was just really, really confining. And I certainly didn't realize that. So they're just getting me to open up the door and, again, taking off the clothes and putting on some new clothes, because I basically go outside and there's a stairs that leads up into my driveway, and then I came back onto the main floor here again. So I basically cleaned out the downstairs, just put a lot of light in the thing. I actually have a boxing bag downstairs as well too, and there's like a lot of dense energy upon the boxing bag from boxing. And so they're just like, clean it up, right? And so you're just uplifting it. They actually got me to kiss the kiss the boxing bag, just like, mwah, and just love. And it just felt better, right? And then there was a door where there's my washer and dryer, and it's really, really dark. It's basically in the crawl space. Right behind the washer and dryer, there's a crawl space. So I had to open that door up as well too, get all the light in there, and just clean that out. So once that was all cleaned out, got clothes on, and then went to the main floor of the house, and then they were telling me to go to the upstairs. And then as I went to the upstairs, a lot of stuff needed to be cleaned up there as well too. Same thing. The windows were closed, the blinds were on them, and there was a closet needed to be open. Had to get all this, get everything opened up, get the air in here, get the sunlight in, and that was so very important. They said, you gotta. It was almost like looking at a feng shui kind of trip, because there was really a lot of the work went towards the environment. Some of it went towards my thoughts, some of it went towards my feelings, but they just said, you did a lot of good work with yourself. You don't really have too much to work on within yourself on an emotional or thought-based level. There's some things, but it was more of your environment. Your environment was a mess, right? So we just needed to come in and clean your environment up. And then as soon as I started cleaning the upstairs, I didn't really know what they wanted me to do next. And so again, there's times where I just make my body go limp, like I'm just like it's just a dead puppet. And they would reanimate the body, and they would actually like picking me up and like tossing me on the bed. They'd be doing this, and then they'd be like putting my feet together like this. They'd be putting my arms outstretched, putting them up here in like cactus pose, and they would just start moving my body. So basically I would be experiencing a full embodiment of their energy. This happened on the main floor as well too. When I was laying on my yoga mat, I could feel them moving my arms, I could feel them moving my legs. I was basically just going into full embodiment. I was looking in the mirror too. It almost feels like I was taking like a praying mantis pose. Right? I was basically like moving my arms, my shoulders like this. If I had a camera, I'd probably freak people out, right? It actually looked like I was possessed. So it would probably freak a lot of people out. So they were contorting and doing all this. It was really, really trippy. But they do that because they want you to have certain forms of alignments. and to make certain forms of postures, because this is going to work together. It's a yoga. It's a yoga for your body. It's a yoga for your mind. It's a yoga for your emotions. So you want to get into the postures that they would put you into. And then, so again, I just laid down on the bed, and that's when I started to channel, as they call themselves, the Nature Collective. Okay. And so there's about an hour's worth of audio recording on my phone here, of me just completely channeling the Nature Collective. So I am going to be working on making those into videos over the next couple of days, because there's some really fascinating information. But I have to give you guys a warning, okay? They are very profane, okay? F-bombs here, left, right, and center, and a lot of swearing. Sometimes they just make fun of things, but they do it in a very, very playful way, right? When they're basically dropping F-bombs, they're giggling afterwards, right? They're very playful. It's kind of like what Lexi does with me at times. Like, she'll drop a few F-bombs here and there, but she means it out of fun and out of play and out of love. So when these audios do come on to the YouTube channel, I'm just giving you guys forewarning, okay? It's very strong foul language when the Nature Collective comes in. Okay, it's funny, it's hilarious, but it's a very, very different energy than how I'm channeling Adronis, right? When Adronis comes through, there's hardly any swearing with him, right? But with a Nature Collective, very different, because they have no boundaries. There's no boundaries. There's nothing that's blocking them. Like, oh shit, oh, we're supposed to not say shit, but and they're giggling about all this stuff. So they're constantly dropping F-bombs. They're going MFer. They're going shit and hell and damn it, and every particular form of swear word that you can think of, they're saying. But they say that because it emphasizes their point. It gets their point across, and it also creates kind of a giggling sensation, a laughter. So there's a science behind the swearing that they do. But they say, hey, we take full responsibility for this. Guys, don't take it out on Brad, because we're just channeling through him. It's our dirty mouth. And if you guys have a problem with our language, then you can go and curse out a leaf the next time you pass one. That was one of the things that they were saying. So it's great. So they're basically talking about what happens when a person goes into a psilocybin trip. They're talking about, again, the nature of the universe. They're talking about how this universe is shared. They talk about the dimensional structures. They demonstrate the importance of coming to center. So they have their own philosophies, and it's a beautiful thing. And they keep everything very simple. It's very modern as well too, right? They're not going back into ancient rhetoric. They're not going into guru type talk. It's very human. It's a very, very human, modern kind of personality that they have, and they basically adapt with what is trendy in that way. They talk, and they curse, and they profane, and it's fun. It's hilarious. So I am working on getting all those audios together this week. I'll be working on that, and then they'll be coming and debuting on this channel. But all in all, it was a very intense trip. I saw a lot of my light side. I saw a lot of my dark side as well too. And like I said, they're tough love teachers. Okay, they're not like, oh, it's okay, man. You go ahead. No. They will kick you in the ass, right? They will, like I said, it was like my whole middle finger here just felt like there was a cactus prick. And as soon as I touched it, it was like excruciating pain. And that was them. They were doing that. They say, come on, get up off your ass. We're trying to show you something else. And they're tough love, right? They love you, but they're tough on you, right? They are very tough on you. And they're tough on me because that's a reflection about how I teach as well too. I'm kind of a tough love teacher. I can be loving and compassionate, but when I feel like a person is not being very serious, sometimes I bust their balls a little bit. And that's not meant to be mean or anything like that, but it goes into that kind of tough love nature in that way, and saying, hey, if you're really serious, this is what you got to be doing. And so they were just reflecting that back to me and being kind of tough loving. So mushrooms will always be a mirror for the person, right? There will always be a mirror personality. So you could have a young woman who's very light and beautiful and sweet and compassionate, and the mushrooms will reflect that. They'll be very light, sweet, loving, and compassionate, but they may also have some tough love with you because they're trying to get your attention. They're trying to say, hey, you need to look at this. Don't close your eyes. Don't shudder away from something. We're trying to show you something, because as soon as you heal that, you're going to feel amazing. I literally felt like after the trip, I was just coming out of an old shell. There was an old shell with me that was just broken apart, and I just feel like I was this new plant. I literally felt like Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy. Right? You just have this new sprouted plant of a being, and I was dancing and I was singing and I was waving my hands around and I was playing with geometry. I was just completely boundaryless, and that's how you have a really good trip. Now, what the mushrooms will also say, they say there's no such thing as a bad trip. Okay, it's not about that. He said all we are trying to do is helping you to look into the boogie men and boogie women that you put inside your own closets. We're trying to show you what you have created. But many of you will feel like you'll take your shit out on us. When all we're trying to do is show you all of this crap that you stored into your own closets. And all we're trying to do is getting you to open that door and say, open the door. I don't want to open it. Say, open the bleeping door. Right? And then you finally open it. There's nothing there. What you were afraid of was the door itself. Right? That's all the mushrooms are doing. They're being guides. They're being guides. They're being like a chariot. And they're taking you into the physical, they're taking you into the astral, they're taking you into the causal. And they're showing you all these things that represent distortion. And so they show you exactly what you can do to clean it up. And you do that by looking at the colors, by listening to your feelings, listening to your thoughts, and seeing how the geometries shape, right? They start getting really, really kind of edgy and pointy and sharp. Then you're going into very, very despairing situations. They start to feel a lot more lighter colors, a lot of greens and blues and purples and violet. You're moving yourself in a higher vibration. You're moving yourself in a higher frequency. You're moving yourself into delightfulness, right? But there's times too where I just felt like I was plummeting, and it was just so amazing about how everything just changed in your reality, right? Everything just, the lighting would change. Everything would just basically go a lot more dark. And as soon as I brought relief to it, everything's so happy and lights everywhere and everything's great. And I could just see how everything was just synchronizing together with itself. And I was seeing all these patterns, and I was seeing how the cycles were going. And I said, this is it. This is the matrix, right? And this is what the mushrooms represent. Some people say, oh, do they go in the fairy realms? Do they go in these realms? They go in every single realm there is. They are the matrix, right? They are the muscles and tissues of the entire universal matrix itself. That's what the mushrooms represent. Okay, so they're kind of like the lifeblood. They're like the physical body construct of the matrix itself, the mycelium network, right? So that is the nature of the mushrooms. And so they are guardians, they're guides, they're helpers. They help us because they love us, right? If they didn't love us, they didn't have to do any of this work with us. But they see us really as royalty. When you talk to a mushroom says, we see your souls as God. And we're helping out gods here. We're helping you guys to become gods in training and to stop eating crap sandwiches all the constant time, right? You want to look into these things, and the way that they communicate is through light, is through color, is through shapes, is through geometries. And when those geometries start getting really, really dark and dense and pointy and sharp, you're going into despair, and you feel it, and you feel like crap. You feel horrible, right? But you got to catch yourself. And as soon as you catch yourself, you start lightening everything up. You start bringing in higher vibration. You start bringing in loving vibration. And now the vibration changes, and now everything's lightening up again, all that stuff. And one of the important things they said in saying, Brad, this is what it's like when you die. This is what it's like when you leave your physical body. You will experience reality like that, right? So you will feel that if you're going into deep, disparaging thoughts, your reality in spirit is instantly going to change. You're going to feel like the twilight hours are coming in, and dusk is happening. Everything's turning sharp and pointy, and quills and needles, and it just feels really, really uncomfortable. And usually in spirit, they'll have people who remind you, hey, you're going very deeply into that low vibration. Pick yourself up, and they'll help you. They'll start putting all these high vibrations around you and say, hey, work with us. And then you start doing it. Everything turns great again. You have to be so careful with that, especially when the time comes where you kick the bucket, your physical body leaves, and that is exactly what the spirit world is. When you go into the astral realms, when you go into the causal plane, all of that. So the astral realm, again, really represents thought vibration. And when you're moving up into the causal realm, you're looking into feelings, vibration, or emotions. So I was at the top of the causal, and I could feel this. They were saying this is exactly where Jesus is. This is where Buddha is. This is where Krishna is. This is where all the great masters exist. Like I'm here in my front room right now, but I was in the causal, right? So it was really amazing. He said this is all dimensional shifting is. This is the idea of fourth density, right? All you're doing is you're still going to have a house. You're still going to have all this land. You're still going to have all of this. All you're doing is you're twisting yourself up like this. And now you're going to move into a point where thoughts become a lot more malleable, where there's a lot more of a quickening, a quickness relating to you moving into fourth density, right? Thoughts become a lot more lucid. They become a lot more vivid. They become a lot more malleable in a fourth density reality. That's it. You're still going to have a couch. You're still going to have a house. If you move into fourth density, the fourth density equivalent of the mushrooms taking you there, everything's still the same, right? As far as your physical environment goes. What's different is your thought structure. You're moving much more into a lucidity of thoughts, into a vividness of thoughts. It's all fourth density is. So it's really nothing that special. It's just the idea that your thoughts are a lot more vivid and alive, right? So there's a specialty to that, but you're still going to have a physical plane. You're still going to be walking around. You're still going to have trees and you're going to have forests and all that. And yes, there's an entirely new Earth that is coming forward, as I've talked about with 2037, 2038. But again, there's even a fourth density equivalent to this Earth, this very Earth here that we're living on right now, with you inside your house looking at this right now. So all you're doing is you're going up a column. You're going up a spiral. And when you're on mushrooms, that's basically what's happening. They're taking you up into fourth density, fifth density, sixth density, right? So you're looking up into the point of the causal. The causal goes all the way up into the sixth density. That's where I was yesterday. I was all the way up in the sixth density in my body. And them teaching me these things. This is the causal plane. Here it is, and here you are in the causal. I said, yeah, I'm looking at my front room. I'm looking at my desk. I'm looking at my computer. Yeah, in the sixth density. Cool. That's pretty damn cool, right? So here I am in the causal plane and just starting to be very aware of my feelings. And everything, again, is geometry and colors and vibrations. And that's the same thing with fourth density as well, too, as you're being aware of geometry, you're being aware of colors, you're being aware of vibrations, you're being aware of your thoughts, and you are playing with those thoughts a lot more. So it's just a different shift, a different column of energy, but your environment is exactly the friggin' same. There's no difference. You have a computer, you have a desk, you have a chair, you have a yoga mat, you have a floor, you have walls, you have a house. Fourth density, fifth density, sixth density, exact same thing. Only thing that's changed is the density of reality, where you're now noticing you're being a lot more aware of your thoughts. You're being a lot more aware of your feelings. You're being a lot more aware of your awareness. That's what makes it different. A lot more gets revealed pertaining to the nature of your thoughts, your feelings, your vibrations, the color frequencies of yourself, the geometries that you see, because you'll see geometries as well too. But it's still just it's a life like this. This is just a denser version where everything is a lot more condensed, and then you move up to fourth density and you start feeling a little bit more revealing of things. But there's still life, there's still houses, there's still people, there's still plants, there's still all these things that you're playing with in fourth density. See, this is where we get a misconception of thinking that fourth density is some gigantic paradise, and it is, really, where we're flying in the air and we're doing all this stuff. No, guys. That can come in time. You can learn how to fly in the air here in third density, but it takes time, right? We basically create this utopian feeling pertaining to fourth density, and it's not. It really isn't. It's just the idea that more within your reality is being revealed to you. It's showing you exactly how thoughts shape reality and how you're able to work through more of a malleability of time, right? But you still have everything here. You still have your surroundings. It's the exact same. You've just moved up a spiral to where more information can be shared by being in a fourth density reality. That's it. How do I know? Because I was there yesterday. I've been there in dream time as well too. And then I know what the causal plane feels like. I've been in the causal plane before as well too. Now I was experiencing a much more lucid, vivid interpretation of the causal plane. And it's all about feelings. And you're just working with feelings. And your feelings are basically dictating everything. You're going beyond thoughts and you're coming into feelings. It's amazing. It was a wonderful, incredible experience. It was one of the most deepest trips I've ever had. It's kind of like I woke up this morning a little bit with kind of like a hangover. But it's just letting me know that, the psilocybin is still working with my body. It's working with the brain. It's working with the organs. It's clearing out a lot of stuff, even 24 hours afterwards. So it could probably still be another 24 hours before I'm completely transitioning the psilocybin altogether. But I wanted to share this pretty long vlog with all of you guys. If you guys are watching this and you have not tried psilocybin, okay, I'd recommend it. But what I would suggest is just starting off with very small doses at first and working your way up. The mushrooms we'll be talking about at the Nature Collective talks about that as well too. Now, you do not have to take psychedelics. You do not have to take psilocybin. But what's so great about the mushrooms is that they are so interpersonal with you. And they're very easy on you as well too. They're great guides. They go easy on you, especially if it's like your first trip. They're very, like when I first did it, they're sweet. They're amazing. They're wonderful. They take care of you. They look after you, right? But as you get a little bit more experienced and you have a few more trips under your belt, they get a little bit more stern with you, right? Because they're trying to get you to look at things and saying, hey, this isn't your first rodeo, right? You're going to look into a lot more of these deeper things because you're now a little more experienced with the psychedelic trips of psilocybin. So they will be very stern with you in certain ways, but it's all part of you looking at certain things so that they can liberate you, so they can take that out of you. They are basically saying, here's the husk, and now we'll take care of the husk because you've climbed out of that husk now, and now we can take care of that, and we can nuke that thing, and it goes up into source. So, again, if you're very new to mushrooms, you can do your research, whatever you feel. You don't have to do it. Basically, if you are fully committed to living an inner developmental path, where you're meditating pretty much every single day, where you are doing breathing techniques, you're eating healthy, and you're just continuing to go within and listening to yourself, you won't need psychedelics whatsoever, right? There's times where I just feel I'm personally guided to do some psilocybin, where I'm basically being told, go do some more mushrooms, because this is going to help you shift yourself into the next level. So I just do it whenever I'm guided to it. I don't just do it for kicks, and I would never do that, right? I respect the mushrooms too much to say that I'm dicking around with them or something like that. So it's all based upon my own personal guidance. But again, if you guys are interested, research, right? Talk to people maybe you know who have done it. And if you do decide to do it, start off with just very small doses and work your way up over time. Okay, it's not something you want to do every couple weeks, every couple months. It really is for me, maybe about every 2 or 3 years. I'll do that because they're shortcuts. Okay, when you're doing psilocybin specifically, because I haven't done any of the other things. Okay, it's psilocybin that has really worked well for me, because psilocybin can turn into everything. It can turn into LSD. It can turn into MDMA. It can turn into ayahuasca. It can turn into all these different things. You just talk to it and say, hey, I want you to become ayahuasca now, and now you'll actually have an ayahuasca-like trip from the psilocybin. That's how intelligent it is, right? So you're basically looking at the caretakers of the universe. That's what the mushrooms are. But they relate to you so deeply because they know your personality, they know what you're like, they know what you're into, and they speak in that form of slang and modern tongue, so to speak. And like I said, they can be really, really funny as well too. They have a great sense of humor. Anyways, guys, this is just me going to wrap up now my vlog regarding to my third psilocybin trip. I hope you've enjoyed it. And again, look forward to sharing the audios of the Nature Collective sometime this week. So again, thank you for watching, and I'll speak to you guys again very soon. Take care. Thank you very much for checking out my channel. Below you'll see my links to social media, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also go to healingcodecards.com, pick up your own Healing Code Cards body deck. And of course, check out my website at newearthteachings.com. Thank you once again, and I'll see you in the next video.